As you can see, barriers and coping resources, the science behind taking a golf game to the next level. So this kind of reflects to juniors moving to senior golf, or from amateurs moving to professional golf. But there's also a whole connotation for life in there. So look forward to your questions later. And this is the first time I've discussed these findings with anyone, so it's apart from a university professor. So what we're talking about. So going from one place to another one, if I'm in position A, and I want to go to position B, and position B is, let's say, a challenge. That's a transition. What is transitioning? This goes for life transitioning and athletic transitioning. It's a process of changing from one state or condition to another. So if I'm changing my state, if I'm changing my aspirations, I'm changing the world around me, I go through transition. So this is what we're talking about today. If I want to go my golf game from level A to B, from junior to senior golf, if I become a parent, if I change jobs and move to a new city, if I experience bereavement, we go through transition. And so there are two forms of transition within our research. There's life transitions and there's athletic transitions. But the solutions or the ways ahead during transition are quite similar. It's spooky. So you could say sport reflects life and life reflects sport and what happens in many cases. But you could argue that sporting transitions are more difficult than life transitions because there's all that competition around you. So if I move home, say I move job, I move to next city and I take my family and build a new house, that's difficult enough. But if I'm an amateur turning professional, maybe I'm the best amateur in my country, and I go to tour school, I'm joining 1,000 other really good players from 50 countries, going for that one goal. And this is, my interest in transitioning there's really two things going back here, which I think many of us can relate to. I was never the player I thought I should be, as a junior and also as a professional. A junior 30 years ago, as a really miserable touring professional 25 years ago. I thought I should have been better. And the reason I didn't make it or wasn't better always bothered me. So when the chance came up from MSc research in England, this is the one thing I had to do. There's a lot of research on why people make it, but not a lot of research why people don't make it. So if we can know more about why they don't make it, we can maybe help more make it in the future, as tough as it is. So this is what I did. I was lucky enough to interview 9 British and Irish amateurs that were very good. So they all played for the Walker Cup, which I'm sure you know is like the Ryder Cup in the old days for amateurs. The best 10 amateurs from the States. Again, the best 10 amateurs from GB&I. Actually 8 played Walker Cup, and 1 played St Andrew's Trophy. So they were certainly 9 of the best amateurs in Great Britain and Ireland when they turned professional. Among the group I interviewed, these were some of their wins. So they weren't just okay. There was a European amateur champion, there was a British amateur champion, there was a number of national champions, also overseas, going to win in Austria, going to win in Switzerland. Witham Trophy is a big stroke play event in the UK. The Brabazon Trophy is the English Championship, stroke play championship. St Andrews Links in Scotland is one of the biggest WAGR events in the world now. And one of the gentlemen did particularly well in NCAA in the States, so he transferred his game from the UK to the United States at amateur level. And because all 9 were really good at amateur level, they actually had finance in place when they turned professional. So it wasn't they all had the contracts that many of us kind of dreamed of maybe, because they had proven themselves at amateur level. So this is the group, and this group formed my research. The problem was, all 9 turned professional. They wanted all to play the PGA European Tour, and only 1 made it for 1 season only. So this group, over a 10-year period, had gone from the best amateurs in Britain, which is fairly strong, to playing at the bottom of the professional leagues before they quit. Why do you think that was? Get some opinions. Why should that group, why should these 9 individuals, being so good, being so successful for a long period of time, nationally and internationally, why shouldn't they make it on the tour? Why did they crash and burn? Some opinions from you, please.
Emotion.
Emotion, which would mean not strong enough mentally, physically?
Well, just emotion. Well, too much, probably too much goal. The highly set up a too much high goal, like Stephen said, not
Okay.
high goal.
So, overly ambitious?
Something like that, maybe.
If I say one of the cohort, one of the group, finished 15th in the Open as an amateur, so he'd kicked butt as an amateur among the pros. Two of the others had made the cut at European Tour events as amateurs, but certainly overly ambitious. Someone else, please? Other thoughts?
Expectation.
Have been too much expectation, Paul?
That expectation tempered against the time frame, not giving themselves, maybe expecting too quickly rather than saying the transition might take a little longer than.
Too much expectation and won it too fast? Time frame. Thanks, David. Time frame. Anything else? They all had 8 of the 9, Sarah, had 50, 60,000 euros a year to start with. One lad didn't, but gained sponsorship afterwards. So finance to begin with, finance came later when they got worse. But initially they had money in the bank. They were all sponsored up to their underwear.
Not prepared. Not prepared.
Not prepared.
Maybe some of them, they were early specialization, so they got born at that time.
Early specialisers, so burned out. The average age of turn pro, Jesus, was 23 and a half. Early specialisers. Any other thoughts? Mark?
Social, behind the ball changes maybe.
Social difficulties?
Yeah.
Yeah. They played on average for 6 years and 1 month. The shortest career was 3 years, the longest career was 8 years. Good.
Spirit of the game. Their own spirit.
Losing the spirit?
But the reason why they love to play game as an amateur maybe change when they turn pro, and if they are not in harmony with that, then the result is not there.
So they lost the love?
Yeah.
Yeah, lost. So overly ambitious, too much expectation, the time frame was too tight, not prepared, early specialisers, finance was a later issue, and they lost the kind of love of the spirit of the game. Good. Anything else?
Too much pressure from the family and friends.
Well, at that time, interesting, they're all adults. They'd all moved on from their families, but without doubt, it's something that you could think of. Pressure. Pressure, family. Okay, great.
I don't know if it's the right word, but maybe protection. You know, because these guys, they used to work or play for the national teams, and they're working with psychologists, physical trainers, everything. You know, they got everything, but as soon as they turn pro, some of them they are well,
They lost.
so they're not gonna manage the situation sometimes.
They got lost, Jesus?
What?
Lost? Lost the protection?
They get lost, or, yeah.
I think like the support network maybe wasn't there.
Yeah.
It was there when they were.
Yeah. What's interesting, there's 2 things going on here. So basically what happened, Stambilova is not, there's 2 major voices in transitional process. Dr. Natalia Stambilova, who's originally Russian, now works in Sweden, and Nancy Schlossberg. So Nancy Schlossberg did all this stuff in life transitions. And Stambilova certainly looked at her work in the late 80s and thought, well, this makes sense. And Stambilova was without doubt the world leading authority on athletic transitions, sport, golf. And basically, we've got 2 stories going on here now. And we'll go through that. And successful transitioning, as far as you can help the athlete, is based on issues of barriers and coping resources. So to fill in the story from the 9 players, all 9 felt lost when they left the golf union, the federation support. They were lost. It's called social death among the sociologists. And social death is when you move on and you're as good as dead from your amateur body. It's a two-way street. So they stopped talking to the golf union, and the golf union just let them go. And as one of the players said, an Irish player said, he'd been in the system for 10 years. He knew the coaches and the system better than his own sister and brother. And that all 9 talked about being lost when they turned professional, because that social nest was gone, and it couldn't be replaced in the 2 or 3 years they were playing professional golf. The second one that affected 7 of the 9 was having no mentor, having no one that had been there and struggled, no one to talk to them about going to Kazakhstan, about getting a hire car in Morocco, about missing the cut in Azerbaijan, about no longer having your roommate there, about having a roommate that snores. And as part of my learning experience, I didn't expect that. I expected family pressure, I expected too much expectations, I expected early specialisers. Didn't seem to be the case. Then the reason most of the 9 they felt they didn't make it was loss of golf union support, social death, and having no mentor. One of the players had a mentor, Patrick Harrington, but he said he was just in 2 different stratospheres. It was too difficult for him to relate to Patrick's help. And there was two smaller issues there within the field, and it was one was financial constraints, which came over time because they didn't produce the goods. They lost their sponsorship. And 2 of the 9 said they didn't have the game in hindsight to make the PGA Tour or European Tour. But the big solid, I think, was the social death of leaving the golf union, and no mentor to guide them at all, to help them out, to say, I've been there, done that, understand your problems. So these findings are actually fairly irrelevant for what we're going to talk about now, but they're the basis. So barriers in that case was, so you've got transition, and this becomes important to us now. This gets really relevant for every one of us in the room. So you've got your barriers, which are the handicaps, the hazards. And then you've got your coping resources, which are the solutions, simple as. So you could say hazards and solutions. One of Stambulova's works, she interviewed 600 Russian athletes that had been Olympic athletes and non-Olympic athletes. They made it and lost it over a 20-year period. And basically the success rate we have is this: to allow success to happen more possibly, for every barrier you need a solution. If there's a barrier without a solution, transition doesn't seem to happen. So what happened with the group of the cohort there, the Walker Cup players that turned professional, through the 6 years of playing professional golf, they could never replace the social network they lost when they quit the amateur game. The 6 years of playing, they never had a mentor, so they kept making the same mistakes year after year. That's their own words. So Stambulova talks about barriers and coping resources. So in that case, let's say there was social death. Throughout their whole career, they had no one to talk to. They couldn't play a practice round with their old amateur buddies. They felt they couldn't, and they didn't. They couldn't pick up the phone and talk to one of their friends about playing the 16th hole at Royal County Down or at San Roque, because they were gone. And the problem that we have, there was social death and there was no coping resource. They found no solution. They had no mentor. They found no solution. One of the cohort was European Amateur Champion. He turned professional, played for 6 years. He was actually British Amateur Champion as well. And he knew his drives are 20 yards too short for the tour. His best drive was 270. At the time he played, the average 96% of the European Tour players hit it more than 270 on average. So his average drive was 250, his best was 270. So his barrier, his hazard was he was too short. And every coach he went to, unfortunately, no one gained him 20 yards. So he was too short, didn't gain the length. He felt that was his downfall. One of the other players, the second one, said didn't hit it close enough to the hole. He would say he was too wayward. He was too proud to seek coaching advice for 3 years. Yeah, he thought, I'll get there one day. I'll get there. I'll just keep going. I need some good luck. Never made it. Now, so what we're finding is the key to successful transition, the key to having a chance, and we know the chance is tiny anyway, it's 1%, is for the player and the coach together to know where are the barriers. And the barriers we're talking about are massive, because they're all within a performance circle. And the performance circle is made up of our biology, which is swing, fitness, health, nutrition. Our psychology, and our social background. And the 9 didn't make it, they feel, because of the social missing. Losing the social nest and having no one to talk to. And they never found someone within those 6 years they played. And they knew every week, got no one to talk to. My wife doesn't understand me. Coach hasn't been there. It's for us, developing the players of tomorrow. I think part of our remit, maybe you're doing it already, I've just discovered this in the last 6 months, is understanding, trying to appreciate all of the barriers that may be in place when that player wants to undergo transition from junior to senior golf or from amateur to professional golf. What are all of the barriers? And this is the holy grail here, in my opinion. Stand below over. Successful transition is solely with coping. When the athlete is able to do all of the necessary barriers, if there's one barrier in place, it seems that transition won't happen. They had the money in the game, most of the group. What they're missing was the mentor and the social aspect. 2 had the money, the game, and the mentor. But missing the social support of the golf union, the 10 years they've been in the nest, that was enough for them not to make it in hindsight. Thank you.